PC gaming has become pretty expensive. Now, it is not as expensive as it was a couple of years ago when hardware prices were skyrocketing and even video game prices were skyrocketing, but it still isn't cheap. And a big part of that is, of course, the hardware. Now, I get a lot of questions and a lot of inquiries about whether it is possible to play video games on a really cheap system and still be able to play some of the newer titles and even the newest titles, but especially play those esport games like your Counter-Strikes, your Valorants, and some older AAA games. And the answer to that is that you can definitely play games on a system that is quite cheap, and I'm going to prove it today. So I'm going to be building a $200 PC that is just from parts that I see on Jawa. Now, I'm not going to actually be building this PC, I'm just putting it together and then I'm showing you how it will theoretically perform, just to let you know that, hey, you know, if you are in America in this case, or any country that has these kinds of marketplaces or secondhand shops, these sort of deals exist and they are becoming cheaper. And I used to build PCs to sell a couple of years ago, and I built those PCs with a lot of these sorts of parts because these are the kind of parts that sell on secondhand markets. So even if you just want to sell PCs, build up PCs and sell them, these are the sort of parts that there is still a market for. The value has declined a lot and become a lot smaller as to what it was, but that just means that the market is still, active and people are still looking for these things and buying them in this case. Now, usually it wouldn't mean that, but in this case, as new hardware comes out, old hardware becomes cheaper and people buy it up and it becomes scarce, and sometimes the scarce ones can become more valuable, but that takes a couple of decades to happen. But in this case, you want something that can play games but won't cost more than $200. If that is you, if you're looking for something like that, let's build something like that. So to start off with the motherboard, I've gone for the Dell Optiplex 9020 MT. Now, I actually remember using this a couple of years ago. I built a PC with this, and this one has an included I/O shield, which is nice. The only thing with these motherboards that you should look out for is the power delivery system. So these motherboards were made to work with Dell's own power supply that came with the Office PC that this was in, and that power supply has unique power plugs. So you don't have the 24-pin power plug, and because of that you need to buy a adapter. Now, these adapters are only about $5 to $10, so it's not a big deal, but just be aware of that if you want to purchase something like this. So I've gone with this because obviously the price, it's under $10, and it has 4 DIMM slots. It is DDR3. This is an LGA 1150 motherboard, and this motherboard, it has it's quite big. It has 2 PCIe slots. It has 2 extra PCI slots, so you can even add a adapter for networking or whatever you want to do. And it does have USB 3, so it ticks all of the boxes for budget PC building. I'm talking extreme budget, but it ticks those boxes, so that's why I've gone for this. Now, to pair this, I have chosen a i5 4570. This is a old CPU. I think that's clear. But, even in today's games, it does a job at the basic level. So if you are okay with playing it low, I'm talking AAA games now, you can still use a CPU like this and the graphics card that we're going to get to play at low and even run at HD. So there is still a lot of gaming to be done on these parts, is what I'm getting at. And this is a 4-core 4-thread CPU, and it supports up to 32 gigs of DDR3 RAM. So not too much to be said about this. You can do a little bit of productivity on this as well, some light productivity or light 3D work. But at the end of the day, it's going to do the job for budget gaming. Moving on to the CPU cooler. Now this, you can do whatever you like. It doesn't have to be this or anything like this, but this is just a good price for what it is, and these look really cool. But at this price point, at this budget point, it really doesn't matter. Just go for the cheapest one that is compatible. I just really like the way that this looks. I think it's a cool looking CPU cooler, and it's a good price. Um, and this will keep the CPU cold. Now, this CPU is not going to run extremely hot, but even so, this will be a good choice. But if you can find something for under $10, I'd say go for that. Moving on to the RAM. I remember using RAM like this, and this is Kingston used to be one of the best brands for DDR3 RAM back in the day, and this is a good set of RAM. So this is 16 gigs, 4x4, and yeah, it's gonna do the job. This is clocked at 1600 megahertz, and it is for the type of gaming that you're gonna do on a system like this. This is the perfect amount. It's coming in at $18, and yeah, just it looks nice. It's gonna run well, and you won't be too bothered about it. It's gonna have enough capacity, and the speed isn't too bad either for budget gaming. Moving on to the big one, the graphics card. Now, I took a look at the prices, and it was between this and a 750 Ti. But the 750 Ti said 2 gigabytes, so I'm not sure if it was a Ti. But even the 4 gigabyte 750 Ti is not going to perform as well as the 780, obviously. But one underside to this is only a 3 gigabyte card. But the performance on this is going to be okay, and this one looks really cool as well. You can even pair this with a white CPU cooler if you can find one. That would look really cool. But the performance on this is not going to be too bad. For a lot of games, for esports games, you'll still be able to run on high settings at HD. And for AAA games, you'll run at low at HD, or maybe medium at 720p, whatever you want to do. But this is a nice looking card. It's a powerhouse from the old days, and it's going to do the job for light gaming in 2024. And then moving on to storage. Now, you can do whatever you want here. I just chose something. And I think 256 gigs of SSD is a sweet spot for a PC like this. You want to run the games that you play competitively off your SSDs, obviously, but at this budget, you're not going to buy a 1 terabyte SSD or NVMe. It doesn't even support NVMe. So something like this is good for running Windows and then putting the games that you really want to play competitively, like let's say you play Counter-Strike, Rocket League, Valorant, whatever it might be. You put those games on this, and your single player games you put on a hard drive. Now, I didn't add a hard drive to this PC, but hard drives are cheap. You can get one for $10, and you can get like a terabyte or 2 terabyte for around that price. So storage is not a big deal. But something like this, if you can do 512, obviously I'd say do that so that you can play more games from this. But all in all, the PC is going to be nice and fast with this as the main drive, and you won't have any issues at the end of the day. Now, powering all of this, we have a basic 500 watt power supply that is coming in from Elijah's lab. Now I believe this is the same Elijah that also has a tech channel. Check him out. He does really cool stuff, and I really enjoy watching him. And this unit shows it being tested, which is always cool to see. And it has sleeved cables, so it doesn't look too bad. It's black, and it's a 500 watt unit. So this is going to be perfect for what we need. It's obviously not the best power supply in the world, but for powering this system, it's going to do a great job. And it's coming in at $20. And then we have for the case, we have the Be Quiet Pure Bass 600 Silent. Now, this is very subjective. You can just take whatever you want here. I just chose a case that is not too expensive and doesn't look too bad. This one doesn't have a side panel that is glass. It's solid, but that's because of the case being a noise dampening sort of style case. For this, if it were me, I would spend $60 and get a new case. A cheap new case, but a new case that has RGB and it has fans. But if you only want to buy a secondhand, just for the theme of being on this site, I would take something like this. But you'd still need to add fans to it, and buying cases secondhand doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless the case is in really good condition and it's a case that and it's a case that you really want. But for the sake of this video, I would do something like this, and yeah, it's whatever with the case. You can just do what you want, but you can expect to spend between $30 to $60 on that. So that's it for the PC. We are coming in at right about $200. It might be just over. I'm just calculating in my head. But we are right around $200, and for that amount of money, we are getting some really good performance. Now, $200, I'm trying to think what you can get for $200. You might be able to get like a second-hand PlayStation 4 or a second-hand Xbox One X or something like that. And if that's the case, then obviously that's the sort of performance that you want to beat with this. But again, as with the with the other videos that I make, I always say buying a PC makes more sense to me because I am someone that does design work, someone that uses the PC for things besides gaming. So to me it makes sense, but if you're a pure gamer, maybe it does make more sense to like get a PS4 Pro at a good price or something like that. But as for someone that wants to do more than gaming or just budget gaming at $200, this is going to be a really good system. So with that said, let's find some resources and take a look at how this system will perform more or less, just prospectively, and let's see what we get for the money. Let's do it. Okay, so what I've gone and done is I've found a video that is very close to the PC that we built in terms of specs. And so this will give us an idea of how this PC will perform, and this system is extremely close. So this is the 783 gigabyte. This is one CPU above ours. This is the 4670, but it's still a 4-thread, 4-core CPU, so it's very close, and it's still an i5. And then this also has 16 gigs of RAM. I believe it's clocked at 1600 like ours is. So this PC is extremely close to the PC that we have in this video. And looking at, so I'm just going to scroll through the video and just look at some of the results. Now this channel is amazing for getting these sorts of stats. So I recommend you check it out. It's called Connect Benchmark. Okay, so Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. This is 1080p. Let's see how it does. Well, let's check out the settings first. So this is running on, seems like everything high. And we are getting about 60 FPS on this, which is a really good result. I'm just going to move around a bit. Yeah, it seems to be around that 60 FPS mark for this game. And it looks amazing. It looks fantastic. So I'm surprised at how good this result is, to be honest. Okay, let's check out another one. Assassin's Creed Origins. Probably going to struggle a little bit. I actually started playing this game recently. It's quite a fun game. So this is running at HD native. Let's see the graphics. Everything is on high. Okay. Coming out of the gate, we are at around 40 FPS. This is still really good if you consider that we are running everything on high graphics. I think that if you dropped everything to low, you would probably be around that 60 mark. So it's a really good performance for the price, in my opinion. I'm not going to do Odyssey as well. I'm not going to do Plague Tale because that's just ridiculous. Bright Memory, no. Dying Light. Let's check out Dying Light. Let's see how that does. Okay, well, I'm just going to go back a little bit so we can check it out properly. Let's just give it a chance to load. Okay, HD, uncapped, no anti-aliasing, but everything seems to be on high. 60 FPS as well. So I'm not sure if this is, okay, that go above 60, because I'm not sure if this is V-synced, but yeah, I mean, it's now in the 70s, and okay, this is an older game, but it's performing quite well. So far, for even AAA games, it does around 60 FPS, so that's really good. Days Gone is an interesting one because it's a little bit newer. I believe this came out in 2016, 2017, around there. This is running at HD. It is VSync is on, and it is running on a mix of high and medium. So let's see how it does. Again, VSync is on this time, but it is at around 50. So yeah, that's a good result. I mean, this is almost maxed out graphically. This is on HD, and it still gets around 50 FPS, 55 to 60 FPS. That's a really good result, and I'm quite stunned actually. Far Cry I know will do well. I'm trying to find a game that's maybe, let's try Hellblade, because that's probably going to struggle. I think Hellblade is quite difficult to run. Senua's Sacrifice. Let's see how this does. 1080p HD high. Okay. No VSync on this one. Again, around the 60s. So, this is quite surprising to me. I didn't think it was going to perform this well. I knew it would do okay, but I didn't think it was going to do this well. I mean, this is running really well. It gets around 60 for almost each test that we do. So, Shadow of the Tomb Raider HD. I think this is going to get around, maybe around 45 or 50. And this is at high as well. High medium. Let's see how it does. This is in-game. Okay, so this one struggles a little bit more. This is around 37, 38, 39, 40. Now, while that is playable, that's a little bit too low. For me, I would need it to be above 45 to play. So I would probably drop this to either low settings or 720p medium settings or something like that. But this is the first game where we're starting to see the age of the card a little bit. Witcher, it will do quite well because that's around the same time that the card came out. Fallen Order, it might struggle a little bit. Let's see how it does in Star Wars. Running at HD, 60 FPS cap, everything set to high. For me, this one might struggle a little bit because this was sort of like one of those new age kind of graphics games. Okay, it's not doing bad. There's a little bit of stutter, but it gets above 45. It seems to be around 60. So, wow. Okay, I'm quite surprised. This system is actually quite performant in these games. Let's take a look at one last one. I think let's do Battlefield 1. That was about 2015, I think, 2016, around there. And this might do well. I think that the 3 gigs of VRAM might be a problem in some games, but it seems like so far it's done quite well. This is set to high HD, and yeah, getting around 60. So, and I mean, this looks really good. I mean, just look at the visuals. It's really not bad. So yeah, overall I'm quite surprised at how well this PC does. $200. I don't think PlayStation 4 or Xbox Series X can run games like this. Maybe it is around the same sort of performance, and I think those are going to be a bit more than $200. So I'm surprised pleasantly. There seems to be, if you're someone that wants to get into gaming, or you have a low budget but you really want to play some games, you don't have to just do esports. It seems like there's a lot of AAA games that will run just fine on a PC like this. So I guess the point I'm making is budget gaming still very possible. With that said, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Cheers.